All right. I told you it was going to happen, so I would love to invite Zeke back up to the screen to share and tell you a little bit more about why we're raising funds and how important your dollars are for tonight. Come on up, Zeke.
Again, thank you again for having me out here this evening. I'm supposed to give you some idea of why fund the need. And as I said before, we cannot even have that conversation without first giving you a great thanks to our supporters over the years. I want to give you this information beginning with a couple of stories. And bear with me because I think the stories will kind of give you an idea of the significance of what we're asking for tonight. Our need for tonight is therapeutic counseling. So this is I'm on my 5th year as the executive director with Antioch Adoptions. In my first year, I received a call that I did not expect, someone asking me they asked, did you know that there is an event going on at the local church? It's a memorial service. And I had no idea. And they said, well, why we're calling you because one of the child that is for this memorial service is one of your Antioch Adoptions adoptees. And I went and attended this event. I promise you, this is one of the largest sanctuary in our local community. And it was packed. This was a young man who had been adopted as a young child, about 3 to 4 years old, and at the age of 15, chose to commit suicide. Now, as I told you, the sanctuary was packed. Went to a very lovely private school, Christian private school, support of parents, part of a youth group. Youth group leaders spoke and shared some incredible thoughts about this young person. I mean, I interestingly saw a full life. I saw a full life. And it bothered me to think, why? Why would he commit suicide? Story number 2. As I began my tenure here as well, not too long ago, our case managers came to me and said, hey, we have a child we have to place. And I called this young man affectionately, because I love him to death, and this is not a derogatory term in any way, but I call him my Tasmanian devil. He had been raised by his grandma, and because of the age and so forth, I believe, really did not have a lot of monitoring or restraints, and had just developed some really traumatic, obviously losing mom and dad, and now living with grandma, has developed some traumatic responses to life. And literally would walk into any venue and would tear it up. Destruction. And I know even the state social workers were telling our case managers they didn't know what to do with this young man. And so he was brought to Antioch Adoptions for placement. We tried to place him with a younger couple at first, and before long it was clear that there was no way they could handle this young man. They went into their home, there was already some destruction. However, a few days or so later, because this young couple was traveling, we had to put him in a respite home for a short while. Well, to God's glory, this respite home had a mother who was well trained in trauma-informed care, and her family was also well versed in that program. And so the complete difference of watching that young man in that home of someone who knew what they were doing with his life and his response told us pretty quickly that we were to seek adoption, if possible, in that home than any other home. Long story short, we did. I visited that family a few months ago, and that young man is like my truly best friend, because the Tasmanian devil is no more. He is an incredible young man, and he was my personal concierge all that weekend as I spent with his family. As he made sure I was awake, he had me breakfast and everything, and I did not see any destruction, but I saw a young man under full control of his faculties. Folks, I believe that is the thin line between what it means to have some help, including something like therapeutic counseling, as we're asking for you to help us fund tonight, and not having it. I do not know the details of exactly why the young man of 15 years old took his life. But I believe if we had, for us, especially for Antioch Adoptions, and our need to provide our family post-adoptive support, I think we could have made a difference had we had a program like that in place. Now, let me give you some history of what you've done over the last few years at Antioch Adoptions. We came to you about 2 to 3 years ago during an auction like this, and we informed you that we felt a huge need. In fact, I told you how ashamed I was by my staff in a nice way, because I was so eager to go back and bring back our birth adoption program. But I sat with my staff a couple of times, and they beckoned me that we should focus more on trauma-informed care, and we should focus more on our post-adoptive support programs, which we had none of. Well, we told you that we wanted to bring forth TBRI, Trust-Based Relational Intervention, put together by Dr. Karen Purvis, who is now deceased, but from through Texas Christian University. We asked you to fund the need then to send a couple of our staff to get trained to become practitioners. You came alongside us in a mighty way. You provided the funds we needed. Surely, today we have 2 trained practitioners for TBRI on our staff. Those practitioners came back and trained the rest of our staff, educated us on what trauma-informed care was, especially as it pertains to applying this program to our families. And I'm happy to add to you this today that not only did we get those practitioners trained, they trained our staff, but COVID and all, with all the difficulties we had over the last year, we, in the last 2 months, have held our first 2 training classes for our families, and it's been a great success. Our families are now being trained on TBRI. It's been a great success. Thank you so much for filling that need so desperately for Antioch Adoptions. Last auction, we mentioned to you that we needed to bringing back our birth adoption program. That was something that we kind of did away with because of some difficulties in the organization some 10 plus years ago. We told you how important it was. And so that was our funded need of our last auction. Again, you stepped up mightily and provided the funds that we needed. I am happy to report to you that we are about 95%. It's been a very difficult time finding the right candidate and the right situation to bring a birth adoption candidate back into our program, a case manager into our program. But I'm happy to report to you that we're about pretty 95% of the way there, that we will return to our birth adoption programs within the next month or 2. We will be hiring someone here that in fact, just this last week, we had our follow-up interview, and it was a great time and got a quick response how excited that person is to get going. And we believe God has brought us the right choice, someone who has lived, yet is educated in that capacity and is prepared to go out there and meet young teenage moms who are maybe fighting with pregnancy. Here's the deal. TBRI, therapeutic counseling that we're talking about, will be things that we can certainly bring to teen moms who are maybe on drugs or what have you, and this will be another huge component, not only to our foster to adopt kids and families, but also to now our returning birth adoption program, I should say. So, all to say, look at the value of what you've done in a few short years, and look at the long-term opportunities that you've created for years to come with Antioch Adoptions. Tonight's request is no doubt about funding need to bring back or to add to our components here therapeutic counseling. It's clinical counseling. It's an opportunity to dive a little deeper with the individuals that we are supporting, children, and sometimes it's family counseling in a way to find things that you would normally not find in their other emotional situations. But it's specific, individualized clinical support and help that these families, these children, and these mothers may need. So please hesitate not tonight. Go ahead and do what you can and add to make sure we make our 40,000 goal. We believe this will be a 2-year program to try to raise 40 this year and try to raise 40 so that we can have someone in our offices aligned with our case managers to specifically work with the families and the children we work with. We praise you. We thank you so much. We praise our Lord for what he's doing through you for this agency. And I promise you, like you've seen in the report that we've given, it will not go to waste. Our staff is eager to put these tools to practice with our families and our children. Thank you so much.
All right. Whew. He's got a way with words, doesn't he? Well, you know what? We are trying to bring that workman that doesn't need to be ashamed. That's a high quality. That's an individual with the talents to fill the need that Antioch Adoption has. So thank you for your continued giving tonight, and get there, make it happen.